deal with it. I'm just gonna stay inside. Can't breathe, can't blow your nose.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will call the Dorchester County BZA meeting for March the 26th to order. It is determined that we do have a quorum, and at this time, we will have the invocation.
Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your blessings and your covering and your protection and your provision. We reverence you now, and we ask you to bless this meeting to your glory and honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
If you'll stand with me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you all. At this time, the board will accept a motion to adopt the minutes from the February 26th meeting, given that there are no additions, deletions, or corrections. Are there any questions or comments about the meeting minutes? Hearing none, Chair will accept a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the minutes be received and adopted with any necessary corrections.
We have a motion by Mr. Dixon. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second that motion.
We have a second by Mr. Dwight. All those in favor, vote by the usual signs. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. All right, we will move on to our first bit of new business. We have a variance request, or rather a special exception, SE 25-01, to allow an outdoor storage use on property within the MUC, the Mixed Use Community District. Mr. Administrator, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application was received to request a special exception use for outdoor storage, use group 22A. Our use groups for outdoor storage are broken down into a number of different divisions. Use group A is for storage of junk, but also includes storage of vehicles that may or may not be in working order and salvaged automobiles. This property is zoned MUC, Mixed Use Community. The Mixed Use Community provides for many uses, and the business of a towing company can operate in some capacity on that site as a permitted use. However, the use of the property for storage of automobiles or other vehicles or machinery not in running condition or parts thereof requires consideration of a special exception use by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The applicant here is leasing this property for the operation of their towing business. In association with that towing business, they intend to store salvaged towed vehicles on the property that may not be in running condition. Therefore, they were required to obtain a special exception for this portion of the business. They were notified of that when they applied for a business license, which staff here was unable to authorize. The applicant has provided a site plan indicating where they intended the storage of these vehicles to occur. A site development plan will be required to be prepared by the applicant and approved by the county's technical review committee. This would apply to those two parcels that are in the map included and just highlighted here on these two. You'll see Dawson's Branch Road is along here. We have a previously approved special exception on 1554, this little lot area here. This is just a tow yard. And then there was a sort of, let's say, legal non-conforming or grandfathered use here on 1550. This one is far more visible from Dawson Branch as well as this one. The property here, Twisted Hook, uses this long drive to get back to this building right here that's been built. They leased that space and they're looking to lease this lot back here where you see some cars stored already. The request was reviewed based on special criteria for special exceptions, and after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts. First, the proposed use of outdoor storage or salvaging of automobiles, as determined within use group 22A, is a special exception use within the MUC district. Two, adjacent properties are operating similar businesses, and it appears there is sufficient land available to provide for the site requirements of section 10.4.15A, which would require enhanced buffering, some security fencing, things like that. We believe that the site has the ability to meet those requirements. 3, access to the site appears adequate. Site development may require traffic impact analysis. I can't determine that. That's for us to determine at TRC once we know how many cars and how much traffic will be coming in and out. Number 4, the proposal is consistent with comprehensive plan and future land use designation. 5, if approved, the site plan submitted would need to be revised to meet all applicable federal, state, and county regulations and reviewed for site development plan approval by the TRC. Based on these facts, staff is recommending approval of the application with the condition, of course, that the current site plan be revised to meet those requirements and be reviewed by TRC. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any of the board members have any questions for staff? All right, is the applicant present? Would you care to come forward and make any further statements, or are you good? Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Yes, sir, if you would, please come forward. If you would just state your name for the record.
David Broughton.
David, if you'd raise your right hand. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, you have a question?
Wanted to just ask for these vehicles, are these end-of-life vehicles, or are these ones, this is temporary, or what are we doing with them?
I would say 80% of them leave the lot. So we're on Somerville Police rotation. We're trying to get on the Dorchester County rotation. In order to do this, we have to have this approved. So once the vehicles go through the insurance process, the insurance picks the vehicles up and takes them to a body shop to be repaired.
Okay, so they're not going to Coparts or anything like that?
They are. Some of them do go to Copart, and the body shops get full, and they just take them to Copart until they can get them in there. The other vehicles, we're waiting on titles, because some vehicles obviously don't get picked up, and then we salvage those vehicles
Okay.
at a further salvage yard.
How many do you propose that this area can accommodate?
I could probably easily fit 70 vehicles.
70? Okay. Do you have any other areas where you do this, or is this just one area that you're working with?
So I'm opening up another location in North Charleston, and I'm actually going through some of the same stuff here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Anybody else? Thank you, sir. And if you didn't sign in, sir, if you would, there's a sheet right back there by the officers. If you'll make sure to sign in.
Somebody brought the paper up here.
Oh. We've got you down. Any further public comment? We'll close public comment. Is there any further discussion by the board? Chairman will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, and I'm going to just reiterate what staff had said based on facts and findings of staff. I would recommend approval for this property with the conditions that the current site plan be revised to meet the federal, state, and county requirements, subject to the review of the Technical Review Committee.
We have a motion by Ms. Harper where she has reinforced staff recommendations that they meet federal, state, and county requirements and be approved by TRC. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further comments? Discussion? Motion for a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Your variance is requested to pass along to TRC. Thank you for coming. Staff?
Yeah, David, I'll send you an email tomorrow. Thanks.
All right. One of these pages. Now to old business, we have a variance request for section 13.2 to reduce the depth of a required use buffer by Quality Automotive Services. Staff, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We provided to the Board of Zoning Appeals the updated site plan from the applicant. We reviewed it and have not made any changes to our recommendation. However, we would ask that you provide an opportunity to the applicant to present their update and their updated findings as well.
Any further questions of staff? All right. I believe it was Mr. Lawler, are you here? If you could, just give us a brief rundown of the changes that you made in trying to conform to the variance request.
Sure. Appreciate everyone's time again this evening. I put together a quick, hopefully a lot quicker presentation this time. Just to reiterate last meeting, the original request, it was a reduction to the type B use buffer on the south property line. We had about 9 feet at the pinch point as the minimum width, and then it was variable along the improvement. So that was the original request. The modifications that we made to the site are shown here on this slide. Kind of 4 main points. The first one is the area there shown in blue. It's a concrete sidewalk adjacent to the building. Its original dimension and preferred dimension is 5 feet. We are able, talking with Valvoline, to decrease that by 2 feet to 3 feet in width. This isn't really a pedestrian path. This is kind of protect the building and also create a hard surface between curb and building. So that was a reduction. We also, interior to the building, typically there is one 12-foot wide service bay, and then all the other bays are typically 10 feet. What we have done for this specific site is decrease that 12-foot bay to a 10-foot. So we have 2 10-foot bays within the building. The other adjustment was shifting the building north, kind of as discussed in our last meeting, shifting the building and the drive aisles north to pick up more buffer width down on the south boundary. And then the fourth item was just the building location shifted north, so that increased our type H buffer, and we still plan to comply with that height, building height requirement. So with these modifications, we're having to request 3 variances because of the adjustments interior of the site. So to touch on those, the first one is the type B use buffer on the south, along the south boundary, 25-foot required buffer with a fence. Our request at this point, after the site plan changes, is to reduce that buffer to 14 feet along the proposed improvements. This is the south boundary, and then taper out to the full 50-foot width after the proposed improvements. So that's the first first variance that is similar to the one from previously, but a greater width on the south boundary. The second new variance request is this encroachment into the type A use buffer on the north boundary. So this is Waffle House to the north. This is the Waffle House boundary. With the shift in the drive aisle in the building to the north, we are now encroaching into that type A buffer. So what we're requesting is a variable width buffer here. There's one point there adjacent to the building where the use buffer would be 9.7 feet to the property line, to the concrete sidewalk north of the building. And then elsewhere, it would be 15 feet to the back of curb, and then taper out to the full 25 feet on the rear portion of the site, where there aren't any proposed improvements. And we are requesting that there's no fence along this portion, given that it's between the Waffle House and the Valvoline use, similar uses. And we feel that there's the fence doesn't provide any necessary screening between the 2 similar uses. And then the third request now is with the shift, similar to the second one, we are now encroaching into the building setback line of 15 feet. So we're requesting a reduction of 2 feet to a 13-foot building setback due to that shift. So those are the three variances that we are now requesting because of the adjustments to the south boundary. And again, highlighting that the 14-foot buffer on the south boundary is what we're proposing, and with the shift, we're now having to request these second and third variances. So with these, wanted to kind of reiterate the variance standards, the 4 variance standards, and findings of facts. So extraordinary conditions. We do feel that there are extraordinary conditions to this particular piece of property, similar to what we had mentioned last meeting. The narrow site dimensions really restrict the usable width on this property. Number 2, other properties. We feel that these conditions do not apply to other properties in the area, given the commercial use and commercial area that this project is within, and the other properties. Utilization of the property, we do feel that strict application of the ordinance will unreasonably restrict the utilization of this property. Again, the narrowness of the site, applying the buffers and setbacks to this specific property, it results in about a 60-foot usable width. And then number 4, detriment to the area. And we feel that authorization of the variance will not cause substantial detriment to adjacent property, public good, or impair the purpose and intent of the ordinance. We are maintaining use buffers within the areas. It's just a reduction that we're requesting. So still planning to propose all required landscaping within those buffers. So yeah, happy to answer any questions from a design standpoint that anybody might have.
Any further questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you go back to the variance page? I think it was previous slide. So number 2, the conditions do not apply. When I was looking it up, this is a commercial property next to residential, right? So, I mean, there's so many cases like that just in that one area. How do you think that, how do you think this is different than, some of the areas where, it's building out? So you have commercial and you have residential next to it as it builds out from that intersection, specifically that one right there. How is this different, would you say, than the other properties in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I think with this area growing, there's a lot more commercial development in the area. The zoning district is MUC, which allows commercial development. So I think that's everything is moving towards commercial in this area, and so don't look at this as a like single family residential type property that would be redeveloped as a true single family
Right.
development.
I mean, that's the concern, that there's other property, and as everything moves out, this residential gets absorbed, but right now, there's residential right next to it. So, I think the problem that's been talked about on the board many times is the precedent that this could set. And, looking at the area, there's other potential conditions where this, might meet the same, for future requests. This could match, the same scenario,
Yeah. I think we had discussed this last time, just with the adjacent owner and receiving the letter of support from that adjacent owner.
Right.
I just kind of wanted to reiterate that we do have that support from the property owner.
Yeah, I think, is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot of the case before, but please, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, George Tupper again. So, I guess to answer your question.
Just to be reminded, this is a continuation, you're all still under oath.
Okay, so, so to answer your question about that, Glenn, so two things about it is I hear what you're saying about encroaching onto a residential area, and I do appreciate that, being a residential builder. I've been a custom residential builder in the area for a long time.
Right.
So couple main things about that particular property is the variance is against a property that we own, so I'm not doing it against somebody else, and I think I told you that before.
Yep.
The other thing is the part that is residential is further back. It's not up front where this Valvoline's gonna go. And being a residential builder, I don't see taking any client that's gonna want me to build a custom home or any home there, you know? Even so it's not like it's a residential site because that's what the zoning is for a mobile home park. And so even though that's a commercial business, it has a residential standing on it. So I hear your question and I appreciate that. And because being in a residential business, I see how commercial affects it. But we were asking for an opportunity for Dorchester County to get a commercial tax-based business here, knowing that our additional property that's adjacent to it is also going to be going as commercial. We have no intention of expanding our mobile home park to the street. So those residents that are there now, that's as far as they're coming. We are not taking any of that forward. So there won't be any residents to the front of it. Like I said, you're talking about an operation that is needed in the area. It's a minimal traffic, impact compared to a car wash or a bank or all the other things that's already being out there. So I do feel strongly, two things, it is needed in that area. It will bring a tax base of commercial to Dorchester County, and I'm 100% sure we're not doing any residential on our own property adjacent to it. But it is a good concern for y'all's board to be concerned for residents, and so.
Right.
That's,
We just don't, the precedent is, I
Yeah.
think, what, at least I can't speak for everybody, but my concern with it.
yeah.
And I've been wrestling with that
I get it, I do. And if I was doing it against another property owner, I would feel bad about requesting that. And I would never, I've been in Dorchester County my whole life.
Right.
I would never come to Dorchester County or the town of Somerville and ask for a request that I did not believe was a positive request for this county. You know what I mean? That's all I can say is, my family has had that land since it was a farm and had this land also. It's a need there, and so we're trying to help meet a need out in that area. And I know that the remaining part of our property, even the mobile home park, will not always be there. It's going to be changed to commercial. It is babysitting our property right now, and that's why it's there, so that one day when we decide to turn it into a further commercial property,
Right.
we can do it. But like I said, I would not request anything that hurt another property owner or even ask Dorchester County to prove something I didn't think was true.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you all
Tucker.
for your time.
One more question. That property, the residential you own,
Yes, sir.
all right. Question. There's no chance of increasing the site area for this concern
Wish
at
it
all?
was, Mr. Dixon, I wish it was.
Yes, sir.
And the other thing too,
Because I'm saying in the interest of development.
Right.
In the interest of development. And since that's going to be a zone where the residential side's not going to come up,
right,
you extend that commercial
right.
and
That you-
just
you
annex that in
decided.
to eliminate that. But go ahead.
Yeah, there's a sewer easement and a utility easement that are adjacent to this property line currently. And so as far as my impact from the family, no, it's not an option to look at relocating that line over to the south.
Okay.
And I think that they have reduced the building side, they've reduced the thing. And it's not like they're requesting the building to go into that variance. This would be not even an issue, I guess it was commercial, CG against CG. But just so happens it's still a mobile home park. And that's what it is. And the mobile home park is not there. It is at the back, it's at the back end of the property of this.
Okay, all right.
And just one quick addition. I think the hardship here that we're defining is the width of the property, right? So just not being able to develop the property given the width after the use buffers. And so I'm not sure if there are other properties that are adjacent to residential that have that 100-foot width on them within that intersection. So just kind of wanted to reiterate that the hardship that we're presenting and have for this property.
If there are no further comments for the applicant, we'll close public comment. Sorry.
No, I'm good here. I would just like to ask staff to clarify something. That front piece where the old farmhouse, if I remember right, sits, how is that zoned, please?
MUC, Mixed Use Community.
Okay. But it's still, if I remember right from the last meeting, the farmhouse is still there, it's being maintained and everything else. Nobody currently lives there, but there is the potential of somebody to be able to live there. Correct?
We understand that somebody does live there, that they rent it out. Yeah.
So, so when it comes down to us being told how the mobile home park is further back on the property and everything, we are just to ignore the people who are renting the house up front.
And I should say, we have address points where I believe there at one point in time may have been some mobile homes adjacent, directly adjacent. If you can look at this aerial image here, the building here is the building that's rented. I think what Mr. Tupper is saying is that the mobile home park is towards the back of this development, whereas the lot in the front where they rent out that house, the adjacent property is vacant next to the building that they're proposing here. So
So now am I right looking at this, however, that those
That
mobile,
front house
that the
is-
mobile homes, if we're talking about the mobile homes, they're towards the back of the property, but it looks like they start appearing about a third of a way back on the subject property that we're talking about.
that appears to be correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So sounds like we've had plenty of talking points. I would just like to remind the board that while we look at this in relation to the community of Knightsville, into this particular location, we need to understand that, the decisions we make still echo throughout the entire community. This particular piece, while it is narrow and long, there have been other lots that we have seen with these some similar circumstances, but going from one variance and being encumbered to 3 variances, it's really starting to kind of paint a picture.
Mr. Chairman, if you will, to just put it very plainly, so we don't spend all night re-talking about all of this stuff. At the end of the night, this piece of property does not oppose a hardship. If we follow the law, we follow the ordinance. The hardship is that this particular building and business doesn't fit on a piece of property that will allow for another business to sit on and fall within the ordinance and laws. I don't feel like, and I've said this before, we sit up here to see if there's a little bit of gray that works for the community, that works for the county, that works for the laws, that works for the ordinance. There is zero gray on this. It is black and white. I appreciate the fact that there was some things moved around, but as you just stated, we went from looking at a 9-foot issue to now we've got 2 new things looking at us. So we've gone from 1 to 3 by moving the building around, by making some sidewalks shorter, et cetera. I understand the 12-foot to 10-foot, et cetera, et cetera. I 100% wholeheartedly agree with staff on this one. And you guys are very aware of the fact that I don't always agree with staff. But this particular one, there's no way for me to see a hardship on this. It's a hardship for the particular business that they're trying to place on the property because of the size of the building, the driveways, the drive areas and stuff that need to be placed here. Again, we are not, if we had a situation where the economy drops out and all of a sudden everybody has stopped building, we're not doing commercial, we're not doing any of that kind of stuff, we still have residential right next door. That we're trying to put good faith in the fact that it's going to move forward. Last time I checked, Berlin G. Myers was sitting on the books for a good 40 years before they got started on it. Is this something that we're willing to move forward and help and hope that that residential property next door gets developed in the next couple of years? It'd be great because that area is growing. That area does need some of these things. But at the end of the day, that's not what we're here to make a decision on. So with all of that being said, if I may, I would like to make a motion to deny the application based on all of the facts and findings by the staff. And I absolutely will, uphold the findings of the application doesn't meet the requirements for the variance. And so I'm asking for a denial.
All right.
Making a motion.
We have a motion for denial. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Dixon. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the usual signs.
Aye.
The ayes have it. One opposed. All right. We have no new business, no report of the chairman, no report from the zoning administrator. Is there any public comment? No public comment. The board will entertain adjournment.
Make a motion that we adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.